guys so much for being here. If you're here, you are part of the Impact program, even if you don't realize it. So if you are a non-Impact student that got invited, welcome. This is our media production pathway. This is what we do. We do media. And the amazing Clementina Barragan has worked with her mentors at the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization to put together this whole thing. I am incredibly blessed to be a part of it. So I'm just happy to be here, and I'm glad that you guys will be on your best behavior. If you have not gotten a chance to submit questions to the form, there's a form on Google Classroom where you could have submitted questions. We've gone through some of those questions and we'll put them forward. If you have one, you can do that now. You can try and do that low key, right? And I'll go through them and make sure that they are available for you. With that though, I'm gonna introduce Clementina.
Hello guys, if you don't know me, I am Clementina Barragan. I am one of the showrunners here at Indio High School for the broadcast. And through the Big Brothers Big Sisters program of the desert, I have been able to get this situated with Paul, and he has taken his time to be here with you guys and be here with us, and yeah, just try to please be appropriate in the question.
Always or not.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's give Paul our undivided attention.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for having me. It's really, it's cool to see you all. I don't normally talk in front of lots of people like this, so this is both nerve-wracking and terrifying, but really fun at the same time. So you guys are all part of the media program, is that what it is?
Yes.
Great, okay, so you all want to be in the business that I'm in, and it's a good business to be in. I'll just start by telling you just a brief history of me. I'm from Detroit, Michigan originally. I did not grow up in a showbiz family. My dad owned a sporting goods store, and my mom just worked at my dad's store. So I didn't have any connection to Hollywood whatsoever. But I knew when I was about 5 years old, I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. First, I thought I was going to be an actor. Then I became a stand-up comedian. So I did a lot of different things. And then I had a career as an actor, but the whole time was always trying to get myself behind the camera. So I went to USC Film School and got a film degree from there. And then, yeah, just eventually worked my way towards being behind the camera. I was an actor on a bunch of shows. There's a show called Sabrina the Teenage Witch you might know me from. So I was Mr. Poole, the science teacher on that. But I liked acting, but to me, has always wanted to be kind of in charge of the storytelling. And, it's fun to make things, as you guys all know. So I mean, you're all in media, so you know what a director does, but I'm always just curious, do you know everything a director does? Because there's so many people, I'll tell you, like I directed TV and movies, and when I was in TV, I directed a lot of episodes of a show called The Office, and people would come up to me and go, "Oh, you're a director on that show. Have you ever met Steve Carell?" It's like, well, yeah, I'm the director, so clearly I work with everybody. So, as a director, the main thing you do is kind of everything. Everything you see in a movie, everything, especially in a movie, but on TV, I'll go back this way. In television, the writers kind of run the show, and the directors come in and help the writers put the show on film. But in movies, the director is really the one who comes in and just kind of does everything, has the vision for it. You have producers who are the ones that kind of find the material. Sometimes they'll help develop the scripts or the stories, and then they either bring a director in or they work with the director from the beginning. I'm also a producer, so I produce and direct. So my company and I, we find the projects, we develop scripts, we find books that we want to turn into movies, or we get original ideas. Sometimes I write original ideas, and we develop it into a film. And then once we're out of development, we start prep, which is where we're prepping the project, which basically means we're scouting the locations, we're hiring the actors, we're getting all the department heads, getting the costumers, and the cinematographers and the production designers and everything, but it all goes through the director. It's kind of my vision when I'm directing, and basically I'm just kind of micromanaging everything. And when you're a director, all you do is answer questions all day, because the people who work under you, the department heads in charge of all these things, they come to you with ideas. You like to collaborate with them, and I like to hire people, obviously, who have a vision and who really, are going to bring me more than I thought I needed. But at the same time, they have to basically kind of, once I say yes or no, I'll either kind of approve of what they want or go, oh, it could be different. Let's keep looking. And we just keep improving on it and everything. So basically, when you see a movie, everything you're seeing has been under the director's control. So, which is why it's a really fun job to have, because you are telling your story, you are putting your vision out there, and you are the one that can make it either great or can make it not great. And if you've seen plenty of movies that aren't great, and you've seen plenty of movies that are great, and generally it falls to the director to be the one who makes it good. Sometimes there's interference from the studio or the other producers who come in and try to change things, or they don't agree with your vision. That's where you hear, a lot of times you'll hear a term called creative differences, where sometimes a director will leave a project or an actor will leave a project. That means that you're just not creatively in sync. And what you don't want to do is make something that you don't like and you don't agree with, because then you take the blame for it. But at the same time, when you're working in this business, you have to be very political, which means you have to not just say to everybody who's in charge of you, who's giving you the money to make these movies, no, I'm not going to listen to you. So it's as much as it is creative to be doing, what I do at a certain level with studios for movies that cost a lot of money. At the same time, it has to be very collaborative, and you can't just kind of say to the people in charge, don't tell me don't tell me. So you get really good at kind of learning how to give and take, and you'll kind of go, okay, that's a great idea. I don't agree with this one, but that was a good idea you had. Let me do that. So again, just to kind of, that's in the weeds a little bit, but it's very political. So you have to be a collaborator when you do this. It's very hard. I mean, right now, the level, what you guys are doing, you can really be in charge of everything you're doing and just have the singular vision and, don't necessarily have to answer to anybody. But at the same time, there's one person or people that you have to answer to, and that is the audience. And the audience is the most important thing, because if you make something that nobody wants to watch, get out of the business. So that's why I really say, when you're coming up and you're making these you're making your short films, making your projects, really be hard on yourself and be hard on what you're making, and show it to people that you trust, and actually show it to find people that you trust and have them bring their friends who don't really know you and have them watch it, because the people who love you aren't going to be that mean to you if they don't like what you did. But people who don't know you will be brutally honest. But you need that. You need to have that level. When I make a movie, once we've shot it, we go into the editing room and put it together. And it generally takes, the Directors Guild of America gives me 10 weeks where I can be in the editing room to make my movies, to edit the movie without the interference of the studios, other producers, anything. That's my 10 weeks to just do what I want and make the movie as great as I think it can be. And what happens in the business is directors will do that 10 weeks and they'll be so in love with the movie and they think it's all perfect that then you have to do what's called the test screening, which is basically we recruit people from they'll generally get them in front of movie theaters, people coming out of movie theaters, and you recruit about 250 people who don't know me, who don't know anything about the movie, who are just people who like movies. And you do a test screening and basically bring them in, you put the movie up, your version of the movie that you love. We have cameras like this that record us, but that record the audience, but like night vision, so you can see in the dark. So I can see people sitting there watching, eating popcorn, and we record their voices. And it's a really brutal process because we're in love with the movie we just made, but these people will sit there, and if they don't like it, they'll just either be bored, some people will leave, and some people will yell at the screen if they don't like it. But it's a very important process because that's when we are trying to mold our vision for an audience so that we know that the majority of people who are going to come to see the movie eventually will like it. And that's where it gets hard, because the things that we think are great, a lot of times, an audience doesn't buy. And so you have to find a different way to do it. I do a lot of that I shoot a lot of extra material when I shoot a movie, especially my comedies that are have a lot of jokes and funny moments in them. We'll shoot a lot of alternate jokes and lines and all this, so that when we get into that process, if I have a scene that has 3 jokes in it that I think are hilarious and the audience doesn't laugh at all, then we go, okay, let's go back to the editing room. Let's replace those jokes with these other ones that we have. And we just keep doing that until, over the course of, I'd say 3 to 4 to 5 months, we do several test screenings where we just keep going back to the editing room, watching the tapes of the audience, listening to what they laughed at, what they didn't, seeing when they looked bored, when they were reacting, and we just keep adjusting the movie until by the time we all agree that it works and we get a test audience that really likes it overall, then you can lock the movie and then you're all set. So it's basically just a long-winded way of saying, whatever you make sure that you road test it with people who aren't necessarily rooting for you. If that sounds brutal, it is. Because your friends and family will always say, hey, that's great, and they might have some criticism for you. But, if you want to make commercial, and look, I'm a guy who makes what we call commercial films. So I'm making movies for studios that have to make money. Has to bring people in, has to sell a lot of tickets. So that's how you do it. But I think you should do that with everything, honestly, because again, you're there to entertain an audience. So with that, that's kind of the process. I know that you've got some questions for me.
I will be moderating you.
Thank you.
But before I continue, I did forget one very important thing. These 2 lovely ladies, I have Judy from the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. She is our executive director. My big sister, Miss Lolita. They are very much the reason why this is happening. With that, So, how did your early experiences working as an actor shape the way that you currently direct and communicate with your cast?
Great question. How did my work as an actor affect me as a director? It's really important. If you're directing stories, you have actors who are acting for you, obviously. And a lot of directors have never acted before, and they don't realize what actors are going through. It's always, so many people think, acting's really easy. You just get in front of the camera. Acting's really hard because you're just really bearing your soul. You are trusting the director and trusting the camera people and all this, that they're capturing what you're doing correctly and that they're giving you good advice. Because when I'm directing a scene, there's a million ways to do it. Some directors really rehearse for weeks before they go to shooting. And then when they get on set, they rehearse before they roll the cameras. I don't do that personally. You don't have to do it the way I do. This is just the way I like to work. I like to have my actors, I like to know what their first instinct is without me telling them what I want. And in my head, I know exactly what I want them to do, but I also kind of want to see what they will do. And so we just kind of set up the scene where basically we have the cameras up, kind of just figure out exactly where people will stand and move. And then I just start rolling the camera and they'll do their version of the scene. And a lot of times it's not at all what I wanted them to do, but I don't ever go no, that's wrong. It's oh, great. So now I see. So now I know what I want to get them to, which is, a certain way to read the scene, a certain way to play it. But I'll give them small adjustments. So let me try this. Try it a little, quieter this time, or try it. You're a little more angry than I think you were. And every take, I try to give them a little extra thing so that by the time I get to where I think the thing I wanted is, I've got about 8 to 10 takes that are all of varying levels. So when I get in the editing room, because when you're making a movie, all you're doing is feeding the editing room, because you're taking all, this footage that you have and these moments that you've captured, and you're mixing them together in a scene. When you put the whole thing together, the whole story, sometimes you realize, oh, this needs more energy here, or this needs less energy here. So the more options you have going through, that really helps. And so when having been an actor myself, I would have directors who would just be like, no, do this. They'd be really like strict. And it made me, first of all, creatively kind of tense up, because like, okay, I can't try anything right here. I can't do what I feel I would like to do. And so I found that would limit me as an actor. So what I learned over the years is let the actors try whatever they want, steer them gently, but never be the one who goes like, no, that's wrong. No, what are you doing? You'll think it. A lot of times you'll go like, oh, what are they doing? That was terrible. But if you say that, then they're going to like tense up, or they're going to be upset or whatever. And there's some directors who are just really mean to their actors, but that's not me. And I do not advocate for that. I think be good to your actors, because they're without your actors, you don't have a movie, so be good to them.
Looking back at your creation of Freaks and Geeks, what was the most vulnerable lesson you learned about writing authentic, vulnerable characters that still resonate decades later?
Thanks. I created a show called Freaks and Geeks about 25 years ago. And it was about my experiences in high school and the people that I knew. And I really wanted to make it feel very real, because all the TV shows and movies I'd watched about high school up to that point felt very Hollywood, felt very like beautiful people and, having these kind of soap opera problems. And that didn't have anything to do with my friends and the people I knew. So I just wanted to have that honesty about it. And it was really just making a show. Here's, I think, the key. I mean, when you're making short films and the sort of the projects you're making now, a lot of them are kind of based on the culture around you right now, pop culture, referencing pop culture and all that. And we all kind of start there because it's really fun to kind of make fun of different things or to comment on them. But for longevity, eventually, you want to make stories about people, about the human condition, about the relationships we all have, how we deal with the world around us, because that's very universal. And that's never going to become old. Like, how many movies have you seen or TV shows that were kind of really cool and current 10 years ago, and now you're like, boy, that's really out of date, and these references are out of date. So you definitely want to work your way towards just things about people, about interactions. That's why it's so good to draw from your own life experience when you're writing something. You want to tell stories that mean something to you, that you have a unique take on, that nobody else in the world has, because your experiences in your life are unique to you. Every single one of you has a story to tell that we'd be like, wow, we didn't know that about you. And those are the stories you want to hear. You don't want to like watch TV shows and go like, oh, I want to do my version of that story. It's like, well, that's cool, but did that really happen to you? You don't want to, what I call recycle reality. You don't want to recycle other things. You want to have a fresh take, because if you have a fresh voice, then audiences will love it, and then the industry will love it, and then you'll start to be looked at, whether it's your little short film, whether it's whatever you're doing, if they go, that's a unique voice. And think about the movies that you like these days and TV shows. They're unique. There's plenty of things we see like, okay, I've seen something like that before. It doesn't mean anything. But the things that resonate with you, that you can't stop thinking about days later, that's what you want. And that's all of you have one of those stories in you, if not a bunch of stories in you. So you just got to dig deep and pull those out.
The industry is famous for its gatekeeping and rejection. How did you handle major setbacks before your breakout success, and how did you handle them now?
I mean, the entertainment business and Hollywood and showbiz in general is all rejection. It's all rejection. So you got to have a really thick skin. The biggest thing you have to have is the drive to just keep going. I've had people who, will come up to me and they go, oh, my cousin's thinking about getting into showbiz. Can you talk to them? And it's like, well, no, if they're thinking about getting into showbiz, or they're thinking about making movies, don't do it. If you're thinking about it, you're already not doing it. You already don't have the drive to do it. It has to be something that is an all-consuming passion for you. It has to be something that you want to do, that you love, that you have to tell these stories. Because if you have that, then you can weather the rejection. You will get rejected. No matter how great you are, you will get rejected. And that has to make you stronger. It has to either teach you, okay, what I presented them wasn't quite right. You have to learn from these things, because if you just fall, look, you're allowed to fall apart. Trust me. Every time it happens to me, I have to take that whole day off, because I'm just too upset. I'm mad at everybody. Like, how dare they? They don't see how smart I am and how great this idea was. So you just got to let it go. And then the next day, wake up with like, all right, what are we doing now? And so that's really kind of, you have to have that drive. But that's why you have to find projects and work on projects that you really care about. I mean, in my career, I've kind of signed on to things because I wasn't working at the time, and something comes up and I just want to work, and you're like, oh, I think I can do that. I don't know. Sure, I'll do it. Every one of those jobs I've ended up leaving before we did it, because they're just like, making movies, making entertainment is a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week thing. It's all you think about. It's all you dream about. You live it, you breathe it. And that's good. It should be. Your brain is constantly processing the stories you're trying to tell, trying to figure out how to make this better, what's wrong with it. If somebody's got a note, the feedback is weird. It's like, okay, there's something in there, even if they don't present their thoughts correctly. I mean, I'm sure you've all dealt with notes. You get feedback, right? From, you make a project, turn it in, then somebody gives you notes, like Mr. Jackson. And it's very easy to go, oh, they don't get what I'm doing. Oh, you don't understand it. Trust me, I do it too. And but you always have to listen to the germ of the note, which is, people will, a lot of times they'll say, I didn't understand this. That's probably the most important note you can get. If somebody didn't understand something, you go like, well, no, it's easy. Like, how do you not get that? Well, guess what? They didn't get it, So you got to figure out, how can I make it so they can get it? A lot of times then people will go, and here's what you should do. My whole thing is like, tell me the problem, don't give me the solution, because you want to figure it out on your own. And a lot of times their solution is something that they've seen already before, and you have to have the unique solution to it. So yeah, so listen to the notes, take it in, be defensive in the beginning, then let that go and just keep working it. Because the more you can plus things up, as we say in the biz, the better off you'll be.
I had a question about that,
Yes,
because
sir.
I've been teaching them about writers' rooms
Yeah.
and the idea of their pitching their concepts, their jokes to a group of people. What are some of your experiences in a writer's room, and how would you get your ideas through in that space?
Yeah, I mean, a writer's room is really interesting, because you have your head writer, the showrunner, who sits at the front of the table. Now they do it with the computer, and so everybody's got a screen in front of them, so you're watching as they type the script up. And like when I was directing on The Office, I became a co-exec producer on it too, so I was in the writer's room with them. And it depends what the show is. Comedies, writer's rooms are all about pitching jokes. So they'll have, I don't know how much you've said kind of the process. Here's the general process of how a TV gets written. You go into the writer's room in the beginning of the season. Usually they'll kind of break a bunch of different stories. Like, what stories could each episode be about? They're very generalized. And then each episode you kind of drill down more and more. And so everybody kind of weighs in. This could happen, this could happen, this could happen. You get all that stuff, kind of put it together. There's one writer who generally is assigned to each one of these episodes. They go off, they write up an outline, taking all those ideas, bring an outline in. Then the outline is given to the whole writer's room, who review it. They weigh in with their thoughts, and it should be this, shouldn't be this. Finally, when you get the outline correctly, that writer's sent off on, they call it going off on script. And basically they go home and they'll write at their house for a week and do the first draft of the script. Bring that in, and then again, that's given to the whole room where everybody weighs in, and that's where you start that's where the pitching of the jokes happens. But in that writer's room, everybody is weighing in on everything. And it's really, the showrunner has to be, you can't have chaos in the writer's room, everybody just yelling out ideas. So it's very methodical, like, what do you think, what do you think, what do you think? And then when it comes to pitching jokes, it's just basically like, all right, and you just literally go, what's your joke? What's your joke? What's your joke? And they pitch them and you go, somebody wins and most people lose. And, you just have to be good, but you can't be, this is really, I'm giving you very specific advice now. There's a thing in the writer's room called the room killer. And that's a person who will pitch the same thing over and over again. Who goes like, it should be this joke. They go, no, that's not right. They go, no, I'm telling you, it's this joke. And you're like, well, no, we have these other. No, and you're like, okay, well, get out. You're killing the room, basically. You just have to keep going forward. You have to have an ego, and you have to let that ego go. Be confident. My rule in this business is have the confidence to have no confidence, which basically come into something confidently, you know what it is, but if somebody says that's not right, go, okay, let me figure it out, or what is it, and kind of bring other people in. So, because again, you don't want to be insufferable because you won't work.
As someone about to start film school, what is a specific skill or mindset you recommend as a standard curriculum might not explicitly teach?
Oh, that's a great question. I went to USC Film School, and I didn't know what to expect because I was, a kid from Michigan. I made some TV commercials for my dad's store, which were really, like low quality. Trust me. It was me basically standing and come shop at our store. But so I didn't know what to expect in film school, and it's really fascinating. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I did 2 years at Wayne State University in Detroit, which was like my college there, and it had a multimedia program, and so I had this script writing class, and I wrote these scripts, these short scripts, and my teacher thought I was a genius. She was just like, "You're so brilliant. You have to go to Hollywood. You blah 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 blah." So I go to USC Film School. I show up the first day so confident, write this short script. The teacher hates it so much that she recommends to the dean that I be taken out of the film school. And what I wrote was kind of stupid. It was like, it was something about like two neighbors in like their yard, and they get into this fight, and eventually they end up killing each other. It's really like, I thought it was this big metaphor for, the world, and it was just so dumb. And so suddenly I was going to get kicked out of film school. But what I did was, I was upset, but then I regrouped, and what happened was the class had to write reviews of our scripts, and so everybody wrote these scathing reviews of my script. So I said, how do I repair this? So I basically went and I took all these terrible reviews. They don't do this anymore, but like when you see like ads, like written ads for movies, it'll have reviews, and it'll say like, this movie ... is great ... because they're trying to condense it. But I always thought like, well, what are they hiding? So I basically took all these really terrible reviews, and I took all the bad parts out. So I made all these reviews sound like they were really good, and the teacher thought that was really funny. So that kind of got me over the hump. And then I wrote my second short film for the class that she liked so much that she used it in subsequent semesters as an example of how to do it. So it was by regrouping, but just coming into film school, kind of not knowing what to expect. And it's just a level where you're not going to get away with stuff. And if you're in a good film school, they're not going to let you get away with stuff. They're going to be hard on you because the industry is going to be very hard on you. So again, you have to be prepared. Nobody's rooting for you in this business at the beginning. If they like your voice, they will, but they'll always they're not going to let you slide. Let's just say that. Yeah.
Before we continue, I think
I have a question related to that.
Yeah.
For so long in the industry, the belief was that comedy was the mainstay of men, and you're like the ladies' man.
I don't know about that. That's my wife.
Really broke down a lot of those barriers, over a decade ago with so many female comedies that made a ton of money, and even with Freaks and Geeks, I think like Linda Cardellini and Busy Phillips' storylines were the most interesting in the show. So was that a conscious decision that you made to put women at the front of very specifically comedic storylines? Like even Simple Plan, there's so much comedy in what is ultimately a murder.
Yeah.
Was that conscious, or is that just what you're drawn to, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm both drawn to it and it was conscious. I grew up an only child. My next door neighbors were this family of 8 kids, and 6 of them were girls, and they were all my best friends. And then, it was very sweet. And then, but then also when I got to Hollywood, I mean, even before I got to Hollywood, just watching movies, I'd watch old movies from the 30s and 40s where the men and women were very equal. There's old screwball comedies and stuff with Rosalind Russell and, Katharine Hepburn, and names you may or may not know. But they were very equal intelligence level characters. They're both very three-dimensional. And then I watched over the years that comedy especially, it was all men kind of being cool and the women were just hindrances to them. They were either, the mean girlfriend or the angry wife or the beautiful girl who doesn't, who's just like the prize and that's it. And it just bugged me because it wasn't a portrayal of women that I knew, the way that I knew them. And then when I got to Hollywood, a lot of my friends were female actresses and comedians who were really funny. And yet I'd see them in a movie and they weren't funny. They were just having to be the foil to the cool, guy. And so I was just like, I don't like this. And I felt more comfortable writing for women anyway. So so it just kind of built from there. And also just proving to Hollywood, the whole thing was, like you say, they were like, well, movies with women don't make money. They don't sell internationally and men won't show up. And I wanted to disprove that. And so fortunately we have so far. So it works out well. Yeah. Thanks.
Your films consistently manage to balance massive laugh-out-loud comedy with genuine emotional stakes. How do you find and protect that sweet spot during the writing and editing process?
It goes back to making sure that the story is very human and based on character. When you do comedy, it's very easy to go for a joke, but if the joke isn't supported by how you set up how these characters act in real life, and if they're real people, then the joke throws the audience off. I mean, it's like, how many times have you seen a movie and like you're enjoying it, and then somebody will do something, you're like, what? Like, why would they do that? Not in a way of like, wow, that's so surprising that character would do that, but more like, well, that's stupid. Why did they do that? That's when you're not thinking about character. And then I had to navigate this my whole career with jokes, because the studio goes, oh, that joke's really funny. Why'd you cut that joke out? It's like, because it doesn't help with the story. It's undercutting what's happening. Give you an example. When I made the movie Bridesmaids, we had this scene where Kristen Wiig's character first meets Rose Byrne's character, who's the beautiful rich woman, and so Kristen Wiig's already insecure. She's meeting the new best friend of her best friend, who's this gorgeous woman in this beautiful gown. And we had all these really funny jokes of kind of Rose Byrne being kind of mean to her, like, oh, did you just come from work? Even though she's dressed nice, and oh, you own a jewelry store? No, I work in a jewelry store. Oh, I thought you owned it. So all these things where you're going like, okay, well, we hate her. So, because that was the whole dynamic, supposed to be their rivals. But so we had really, and they're really funny jokes, and the studio loved these jokes. And so we put that scene together, and when we did our first test screening, people were just like, boom, they just hated her, but they hated her too much too soon. And we realized in the editing room, like, you know what? She's so beautiful and she's so clearly rich that all she has to do is turn around and walk up and say, oh, you're so cute. And everybody hates her, the audience. We did not need to make the audience hate her more than they did, because we were saving it also for, I don't know if you know the movie, after that there's a whole scene where they have this speech where the two of them are making speeches and they start trying to one-up each other. We realized that was undercutting that. That's where you wanted to discover that Helen, Rose Byrne's character, is actually like taking her on. And so that only came from being able to kind of have that research with a test audience and going and realizing what an audience is looking for. We had another thing too, actually, in that movie. It's very R-rated, so I hope I shouldn't be talking about this movie. But there's an opening scene where Kristen Wiig's in bed with John Hamm. I don't know. Throw me out whenever you want. And so it's the morning after, and So she's basically puts on her makeup and gets back in bed and then pretends that she was, just woke up. And the whole thing is about John Hamm wants her to leave. And so we had this long scene. We shot all this stuff of her, like, he's kind of like, hey, I really got to get to work. She's like, oh, it's so comfortable in this bed. And it went on for 5 minutes, really funny stuff that eventually ended with like John Hamm like trying to pull her out of the bed and she's hanging out of the bed. We thought it was hilarious. We screened it for all our comedy friends, our insider comedy friends. They thought it was hilarious. So we're like, we've got the greatest opening of a movie ever. Screened it for our first test audience of regular people. They silenced. They hated it. They were just dead silent. And it's like, what happened? What happened? And we realized she was pathetic. And it made everybody uncomfortable. And people were like, oh, what is wrong with you? Why didn't you just go? Can you not read the signs? And so we ended up changing the whole thing. And now the way it is now, he's very sweet. He's very sweet. And then he finally says, like, I really want you to leave, but I don't want to sound like an idiot. He says it worse than that. And then you cut to and she's leaving. So you're like, oh, this poor thing, she got duped. So it's that kind of thing where you just have to, audiences are very protective of characters that they like. And so the minute you do anything to make them look silly, to make them look dumb, they don't like it. And so it's really good to kind of be aware of that. Jokes come and go, but characters are the most important thing.
You frequently collaborate with brilliant improvisers such as Melissa McCarthy. As a director, how do you maintain the narrative structure and pacing of the scene while still allowing for spontaneous magic?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I do. People who hate my films always accuse me of like, oh, they just show up and they just make stuff up. It's like, we don't do that. Trust me. Like you couldn't do it. It would cost $1 billion and you'd get nothing done. We work really, really hard on the scripts. We spend, years sometimes developing these scripts. So you want to make sure that the script works. If you just went in and just shot that script, which I don't recommend, but if you just shot those words on that page, you would have a decent movie. But then, you spend so much time and energy and money and everything to get to the set, to get the movie we're actually shooting the movie. So my whole thing is like, once you get there, that's when you want to have the freedom to try things. So you have a very specific roadmap of this scene, of this script, and the scene you're shooting is a very specific scene with a very specific moves it needs. But then within that, there's lines and dialogue and a joke here, a joke there that you can play with. As long as you're not going off course, you can have fun with that. And so I have writers on the set a lot of times who will be writing on these Post-it notes and they're just handing them to me. So I'm putting them on my script and we're in the middle of a take and I'll go like, oh, try this joke. And I'm throwing jokes in and then they're getting inspired and then they'll surprise me with something. But I say like, surprise me. I don't care. Like, I'm just collecting material for the editing room. If I don't shoot it, I don't have it. If I shoot it and I don't use it, great, I didn't use it, but I had it. So I could try it in the editing room. So to me, it's just like, let's get as much stuff as we can so I have as many options. And it also, I'm getting the real, look, I can write this stuff all day and we have writers that can write, these scripts and everything. The only person who has to do it is the actor. They have to make it real for themselves. And when I was a TV director, I'd have a lot of showrunners who were writers and they wanted a joke said exactly the way they wrote it. And I'm working with some brilliant comedians and comedic actors. And I'm having to go in and go like, can you say it like this? And they're like, well, I don't say it like that. And so it's not funny then because they're trying to talk like another person. And that person who wrote the joke doesn't realize this person's a very unique person who has a delivery that's funnier than what you wrote. And so you just got to you got to let it happen. You got to listen to your actors because they're the ones that have to do it, because they get the blame. People will go like, that actor was terrible. And you're like, well, yeah, somebody told them to do that way. Some actors aren't good, but anyway.
Would you have advice for the students of how a script goes from being a document on a computer to being in front of you?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, in my company, we get submitted a lot of scripts. There's a lot of scripts out there. Everybody's writing a script. And 99.9% of them are just not good enough. So it's really, they have to go through levels and layers. Like a script gets written and, you know, the writer lets people read it and then they give them ideas or thoughts and then they kind of keep refining it. And then it eventually goes to their agent, assuming they have an agent, or it gets sent out as a submission to us. And then I have a team of people that are reading these scripts because they know my taste. They know we have our company. There's certain movies we try to focus on, you know, genres and all that we work in. And then if it's good and it passes all those tests, it comes to me and then I read it and I'll either kind of respond to it or I won't. I started out in showbiz. Right out of college, I was a script reader right out of USC Film School, which was a really good way to learn because you're reading all these scripts are coming to you because I was working for a big producer at the time. So he was getting the best scripts and it'd always be like, this is the hot script. There's a bidding war for this. Read it. And so many of them weren't good. But what I learned in that job was because he yelled at me once. he says, "You have very elitist tastes." So I was like, "Yeah," because I was looking for like a perfect script that would just read like you know the greatest book you've ever read, and he was like, "Look for the idea. Like sometimes the execution isn't right. We have a company. We can take that idea and bring on another writer and redevelop it. But so a lot of times, it's the base idea is the big thing. But sometimes a base idea is not that big of an idea, but the characters are great, you know, and the relationships are great, and the movement of the story and the resolution is amazing, or the twists and turns are what's fun. So a lot goes into it, but just know that it's very rare that people go like, we love this script and we're going to shoot it and we're not going to change a word. Like it's almost once you sell a script, that's when the hard work begins because then everybody's got a million notes. Trust me, I'm in the middle of my 4th rewrite on The Housemaid 2 right now. So I just turned it in yesterday and already within like hours, this notes document came in. I'm like, can we change this? Like, so anyway, it never ends, but it makes it better. It makes it better sometimes.
Movies such as Spy and A Simple Favor blend comedy with intense action or thriller elements. What are the unique challenges of directing cross-genre films without letting one tone overpower the other?
Oh, thanks. That's great. Great question. I loved what is called mixed genre, which used to be a taboo in Hollywood. When I was making the first movie, A Simple Favor, it fell through at one studio, so I took it to another studio that a friend of mine was running. And he's like, we can't do mixed genre because that basically what it was. It used to be for Hollywood for so long, you either had to make a comedy that was all hilarious or you had to make a drama that was not funny. And what you found over the years now, if you think of all the movies that I assume a lot of you are enjoying, like a movie like Weapons, you know, and that kind of thing. Those are, I mean, horror. There's so much comedy in horror right now, you know, because you're just playing at this level of emotions are up here. And that's what comedy is too. And so what's great about horror or thrillers or anything like, or action is you're getting that visceral response from the audience of like things are happening and it's really exciting and there's danger. But then if you can find a way to then make that funny, I don't say funny because that you don't want to do, you may want to do it. I don't want to do satire or parody. I want the stakes to be high. You know, I've seen certain movies that are really funny, but like, you know, about like, you know, the villain, but he's kind of bumbling and you go like, okay, well, he's funny, but there's no danger. I don't think I'm not worried for the well-being of the characters. And so to do that, you have to find out what's your base genre. Your base genre, let's say it's an action film or it's a horror film or it's a thriller. You have to be first and foremost slavish to that one. You have to make sure you have the respect for that genre and you want that genre to be great. And then onto that, you can have fun with the extremeness of the characters, how they're reacting to things, but you can't ever ruin the genre by, like, if something's really tense, you don't want to have like just a big dumb joke in the middle of it because it's gonna take the stakes down, you know. And then we're always, as you get in the business, you'll hear the word stakes constantly because that's all you want to raise the stakes. Everything needs to be high stakes. But I get it. I used to hate when they said that when I was coming up, but it's true. Emotional stakes are what make you lean forward and go like, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? If you're just kind of like, I don't care what happens next, I'm waiting for the next joke, it's not good.
You're famous for your impeccable personal style and the
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
and your films are always very phenomenal. How important is wardrobe and production design in helping you establish a character's comedic identity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's so much, we are in a visual medium, as you know, and so it's what is on the screen is as important as what's happening on the screen. Meaning, you want it has the look of the costumes and the set design and all that has to match the story. It has to be additive to the story. But people like to look at things they don't normally get to see. Look, I made movies that are very down and dirty. I made a movie called The Heat, which is about these two undercover cops, in Boston. That's very down and dirty, but it's still kind of a fun world because, it feels authentic. Once again, it helps you stay true to whatever genre you're playing with. But, it's for costumes, what I do a lot of times is I kind of deputize my actors to help to find the look of their character. Like when I work with Melissa McCarthy, I'm always like, okay, how do you want to dress for this? And so she'll go in with our costume designer and they'll put on a bunch of different outfits and they'll send me pictures and I see she's kind of standing in these different outfits and then there'll always be one outfit where she's doing some crazy pose and I'm like, that's the one that she feels comfortable in and she feels the character in. So, again, going back to actors are very, very affected by their wardrobe. Because, when I was an actor, it's as much as what you're wearing and what you look like and what your hair looks like when you look in the mirror and see yourself as a character that affects your performance. And there's nothing worse than an actor I don't want to wear this. And you're like, well, you gotta. Then you're fighting against their process once again. So.
Did you have to go through many internships or jobs before getting to somewhere you wanted to be? If so, how long did that take?
My script reading. When I was a script reader, that was an internship after my first year of college. I did it over the summer. Internships are great. You learn a lot, whether you're going to be a production, a PA, a production assistant on a movie, and just be getting people coffee and all that. You're on the set. You're seeing how it's being done. You're watching all this, and you're making inroads because. Nothing we love more than a great PA. You go wow, that person's really sharp. They're on it. They're getting things on time, but they're observing. It's a good thing, even if there's no money, which is always a bummer. But still, you're basically it's like going, paying to go to college. You don't have to pay them to do it; you're just not getting paid. But that can turn into something because my internship as a script reader turned into the day I graduated from film school, didn't know what I was going to do. They called me up and said, "You want a job?" So it works out. So it's really kind of. If you want to get in the business, try to find an internship or whatever that's in the direction of what you want to go. I mean, if you want to be a writer, a writer's assistant is a great job to get. When you're in the writer's room, there's always one or two writer's assistants who are just taking notes the whole time. They're literally just typing, and every joke that's pitched, they're writing them down. So you get the end of the writer's session, you get this big document, so you remember, oh yeah, that joke was funny, or oh, that was a good idea. And that's a great way to be around it. But if you want to be in production, yeah, become a PA and do it that way. And again, if you're great and just ready to do anything and don't cause trouble for anybody, then sky's the limit.
Nice.
How do you maintain your passion even through your hardest times?
I love what I do. It's all I've ever wanted to do is make movies. That's all I wanted since I was a kid. And so I take it very seriously, and I never take it for granted, and I never let myself get jaded by it. Sometimes you want to, because sometimes things get really hard and you're just like, oh, but you have to go but I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. This is the greatest job in the world, to get to make movies, to make, media, to make all this stuff, to tell our stories is just the best. And so, yeah, you just kind of, you just persevere and just never lose your love for it.
What is your process of going through the people that have the connection to working with each other?
Oh, I mean, people in charge, or just or crew, or kind of thing.
In general.
In general, yeah. I mean, it's for finding your people that you work with, that's a very specific thing, because you'll interview a lot of people when you're first putting your first crew together or team, and you just want to make sure you're all creatively in sync. It's an acting thing, but I mean, when I first did Bridesmaids with Melissa McCarthy, we realized, we have the exact same sense of humor. And so that was really helpful. Like, okay, if I think this is funny, you'll think this is funny. If I think this is stupid, you'll think this is stupid. And that really helped us. But then same with your crew. Like if you have a cinematographer who wants to do something, shows you their favorite work, and you're like, I don't want it to look like that. That's not going to be a good collaboration. Versus, you just have to kind of talk to people and kind of get behind in their head what they want to do. Are they collaborative? And do you trust their taste? And then as far as kind of making inroads with people in charge, it's hard. I mean, it's really, we get submitted scripts all the time to our company just from people like sending it to me, and we have to send it right back, because it's just legally it's too, if I happen to open that up and it's like exactly a story that have been working on for a year, it's like, oh no, now the person thinks I stole their story. So you got to kind of go through the official channels, through agencies and all that, or if you have a connection, they'll make you sign a waiver that basically says, that you're not going to sue them. So it's tricky. So, but just make the stuff, and then it'll get seen.
I wanted to know, because we in Indio, Indio high school students don't have a movie theater. We have to go over to La Quinta to watch our movies.
Really?
Right? And so thinking about how you got into the industry from Michigan,
yeah.
Right? What would you give as advice for students that maybe that's not something they see directly around them, a way to get into the industry?
Well, I mean, what you guys have now that I did not have is the internet. The internet is an amazing thing. Look, there's plenty I hate about the internet, but for what you guys are doing, you've got a distribution setup like that we did not have. When I was making short films and even my first features back, in the 80s and 90s, like there you were with like a can of film and like, will somebody watch my movie? Now you put it on the internet, if it's good, it'll get seen. It'll go up on social media or whatever. It'll, can hopefully go viral, as everybody likes to say. But that's, again, why you have to make sure what you're putting out there is good. If you just put a bunch of crap out, then people are going to go, oh, that person's doing that again. Their stuff's never any good. So, you want to make a splash with everything you do. So treat everything you're putting out there like it's your opening night, and you're working for a studio. But yeah, honestly, that is the key. Because I had to move to California to became a tour guide at Universal Studios, and then just kind of worked my way in through film school and just getting to know people. And then I was a stand-up comedian, like I said, then an actor. So I just made a lot of connections over the years that way. So anybody you meet in showbiz, just really, try to develop a relationship with them, like a friendly relationship where they go like, oh, this person's smart, or this person's on it, or they have a vision, or they have a voice. Really, I can't stress to you how important it is to have your own voice. That's all you've got. Again, like I said, you all have a story to tell. There are many stories to tell. Your individual voice is what makes you unique. If you're just a person going like, I'm trying to be like these other people, or I'm trying to copy what's popular right now, that's not any good. It's because that already exists. If you want to take your voice and do your version of that in a different way, awesome, that's great. But if you're just kind of going like, if you're chasing success via other people's success, it's not going to work. You have to do it yourself. Any questions from me?
Yes, there's one more question.
Oh, great.
If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice on the first day of shooting your very first featured film, what would it be?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'll tell you, the first day I showed up on the set of Freaks and Geeks, which I created and wrote, I showed up to the set and there was 14 giant tractor trailer trucks of equipment and crew, like 200 crew people. And I walked on that set going like, I don't know what any of this, I mean, I was in film school, but at the same time I go like, look at all this equipment. I don't know what half of it does. And I really kind of was intimidated by it. And then I slowly learned, like, the only thing I need to know as the director, and you should know everything, learn as much as you can. But the only thing that really mattered for me was what happened between the camera lens and the actors there. That, and all that stuff was there to facilitate that. You know, if I go like, you know, actually, I wish this was, you know, more colorful, or this was darker here, or this was brighter. The cinematographer's like, okay, cool, go to that truck and out of there, pull all this stuff out. And go, oh, that's what that stuff's for, you know. So I kind of, you know, I don't recommend this, but I went into directing kind of not even really understanding the different sizes of lenses. You know, I just knew I wanted to look like this, and then slowly, you know, working with your cinematographer, oh, that's a 40, you know, you want a 50 or whatever there. You go, oh, okay, so that you'll learn the lingo, you'll learn the technical lingo. Just know what you want to have happen. It's all, once again, if you're telling the story and know the characters, they can't, you know, your cinematographer can't do that, and the crew can't do that. They're all looking at you like, you know, how do we take all this technology and make it into something people want to watch? So I think don't beat yourself up if you don't know something. That said, I'm gonna go on this. My advice is always, like, on the set is like, I never say I don't know, because at least at the studio level, if like somebody from the studio is like, what are you going to do with this? I don't know. They go into panic mode. They're like, he doesn't know. Okay, we got to send a bunch of executives, and they're going to tell him what it is. So you don't have to be like, I got it down. It's just like, oh yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm going to get back to you, and go off and sideline. Okay, what am I going to do? You know, always have an answer. And if it's not right, then they'll, you know, people will have a different opinion. But then it's like, okay, cool, let's try that. But if they think you don't know what's going on, then you're dead.
So, every year, the Impact program hosts an award ceremony. This award ceremony is to recognize our students in the Impact program.
Nice.
And we wanted to honor you on behalf of
Me?
the entire Impact program, the Honorary Rajasaurus Award.
Oh my gosh, wow, oh. Thank you. Oh my God. I'm truly honored. Thank you. This is really, really cool. Oh my gosh, I'm framing this as soon as I get home.
On behalf
Nice drawing,
of
too.
the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, we would like
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Oh. Hey, look at this. Huh? Let's see. I like it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So, are there any questions from the crowd or?
Some of those were.
Oh, they were. Oh, okay, great.
I mean, if you're.
Anybody? I can answer whatever question you want if you got.
Does anybody have questions that they want to ask?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I would happily do that. You bet. I'll get you. I'll get you.
Edwin.
Not enough. Yes, sir.
yes.
So what was the hardest class you took during filming school?
The hardest class? Oh gosh. Well, that's a great question, actually. There was this. It was a very theoretical class about light and color, and they would keep sending us out with a camera, like, to go take pictures to illustrate different, like, really technical kind of color temperature things, and I just blew it the whole time. It was just like, I always bring back, like, what are you doing? It's like, I don't understand, because again, I didn't really care about it, because I knew my cinematographer eventually would know about that stuff. So I find I don't want to get so bogged down in tech stuff that it floods out the creative side of my brain, because again, you know, kind of going back to what I said before, there are so many people that are so interested in the very specific technical details of the business that if I'm just trying to catch up with them, what's the point? You know, they're going to be better at it than I ever going to be. And so if I can just communicate with them and go like, here's what I want it to look like, here's what I need out of it, that's more important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
What's the favorite movie that you made?
My favorite movie that I made? You know, you love them all, but I love Spy. I really am a big fan of Spy. I love The Housemaid that we just did. I'm really happy with that. Yeah, we got doing number 2 is coming up. We start shooting in October, so very excited about that. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Was there ever like a movie you wanted to make but you couldn't?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the beginning of my career, there's a bunch of movies I really wanted to make, but I wasn't at any level where somebody would hire me. And then there's a few things I can't tell you what they are, but there's a few things I turned down that you go like, oh shoot, I should have done that. But also at the same time, I can't tell you what it is. But there's one I turned down. But when I saw it, it was so good, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I could have made it as good as that because it wasn't a genre that I was as familiar with, so I don't know if I would have done it as well as the person that did it. So. Oh, yes, sir.
Well, all I had to do is say irrespective gratitude, but if you're okay with it, if I would have a picture with you, because I've known your work very well, and that
And you're the guy in the tie, too, so.
We will have time. We will have time, I promise. Give it a second.
I got you, pal.
Alex, do you have a question?
Do you have any regrets or mistakes that you wish you could have changed?
That's a great idea. I mean, great idea. That's a great question. And a great idea, too. You know what? I try not to have regrets about stuff. There's stuff I have looked at and gone, oh, I should have done that. But then I did something else that worked really well. And so I kind of go, you know what? If I did that other thing, I might not have done this thing. So I try to be kind of zen about that, of like, chase something if you really want it, but if it doesn't happen, don't get nuts about it, because the better thing might be coming. And especially in the business I'm in, if you come onto a project, that's at least a year of your life, so a lot of other things could happen in there. So I think just, kind of be specific, but then don't get too upset.